Hello, Education 523. Welcome back. This is Dr. Allen, and a few things before I kind of get going. One, most importantly, hope you've had a great break. Hope you got recharged, re energized, everything. Two, forgive the informality behind me. I'm actually filming this in my office over break. I wanted to go ahead and get things organized. It's been on my brain how we're going to approach this class. I'll get into that in a few minutes here. A few other things. I try my best to do these in one take. If not, I would be just doing them all day. So please forgive me if there's a few ums. I've already caught myself doing one. If there's a few ums, or if I seem like I'm thinking, I usually just go ahead and push through just because if we were in a live class, I will be doing that. Uh, so I figure if we're recording something, might as well just kind of, do it warts and all. I will promise you this is a unique class because it is only a half a semester class. So we only have basically 7 weeks to get through everything. I'll talk about that. That's what this video is about. This is basically our intro for week one. I'm really going to try to be conscientious of not trying to destroy everyone and trying to overload and try to do everything. We're going to do that, but I'm going to try to take some unique approaches to it. So I want to use this video to kind of explain that a little bit and also slightly get into content, but won't be too much of that today. Of course, we are asynchronous, so we don't have a meeting time. This is basically, I'll go over how I've set up the class and it runs week to week when we pull up the syllabus. I will do these videos once a week. I think I just mentioned that, but just in case, these will be up. And of course, you're always welcome to email me, stop by my office. I'm in Canudi 101C, anything like that. So with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and kind of talk a little bit about the class. One of the things with this class, let me go back here. I'm going to start right from the beginning. I've kind of been thinking about this class a little bit because usually, and I know this might not be the case for everyone, but usually most people who are in this class are already in the field of education. They're teachers, counselors, something along those lines. And being a graduate class, I was trying to be a little cognizant of that only because it's a graduate class. So I want to kind of take things from different perspectives. And of course, multiculturalism is a big issue, a big topic in the world of education. So I thought maybe we could look at things from a few different lenses, so to speak. So with that being said, pretty much everything that we're going to do is going to be in our Brightspace course. Um, I'm still kind of cleaning up a few things. Don't worry about the thank you there. I'll have that going. Actually, I'll just click that now. That was from last year's class, and I rolled the class over. But just in case you're not familiar with everything, I'm assuming most people have been in Brightspace at this point. These are going to be the two tabs that we're going to use the most. If you hit content, everything that we have should be over on this side. And I have pretty much the dates. Forgive me, I'm still cleaning up some of the terminology. I switched one of the textbooks this year. I'm going to get sidetracked. I do that when I'm live. My background is social studies. I was a social studies teacher for 15 years. It's what I love. It's what I do. I felt like last time I taught this class, though, I delved a little bit too much into the social studies lens, so to speak. I'll probably still default to that a lot of times. But with that being said, I want to make sure, I thought that was just a little bit of self-reflection. So I'm kind of trying a few different things this semester. So I guess you'll be the ultimate judges whether they work or not. So with that being said, once you hit content up here, we're going to have everything open week to week. As you can see, everything's kind of rolling. This is our first week. Syllabus is right up here. And syllabus is posted. You probably will receive this via email too, because I do use the course announcements and I usually attach it. Just in case you need it, there's my office hours. I will say this, that I'm pretty faithful with them. Once I start going out in the field, sometimes they get a little altered and I do put a sign up on my door. So it's always good to kind of fire me an email if you know you need to come in. I would say 99% of the time I'll be there during these times, but because I try to schedule my student teaching around that. But just in case, if you know you need to come in, fire me an email. I do try to respond to emails within 24 hours, usually quicker than that, but 24 is a good barometer. Again, we're an asynchronous course, so we don't have a live meeting online or live. I'm not going to get too much into all of this. This is just the course overview and what we're kind of going to be doing, this course description and the program. Also, we do have 2 required textbooks. I will say this about both. We're going to focus it primarily, at least at the beginning, on The Flat World in Education by Robin Darling Hammond. If you don't know much about her, she's one of the foremost researchers in education. Felt she would be someone really good to have in a graduate level class, just because she is definitely a research-based person. I believe, I don't have my notes in front of me at the moment, she is a Stanford University professor. She speaks at a ton of conferences. She looks at things. We're going to talk about the flat world concept here in a few minutes when I talk about the discussion board for this week. But Robin Darling Hammond, The Flat World in Education. It's a good read. And when we look at the syllabus, you'll see you'll just have a couple chapters a week. I will say this is the one thing about these short classes that does worry me a little bit. And I've really tried to break it down. Reading is a lot. A graduate class, I mean, it's kind of to be expected, but still, I've tried to spread it out as best I can. The other one in the last couple of weeks, we're going to look at Salzburg Finished Lessons 3.0, what the world can learn basically from how Finland approaches things. I'll talk about this a little more as we get closer to that book. I kind of was this was the one that I added. I went to a conference and there was a lot of people from different countries that were talking about their country's concepts on how they approach diversity and things like that. This book's been very popular. A lot of times it's in comparative education classes. I decided, you know what, I wanted to try something from a little bit of a different lens. So we're going to look at Finland and how they approach a lot of, I guess, equality and diversity style topics. I'll talk about the assignment associated with the book here in a few minutes also when we get down through all that. But I thought it would be unique, especially because, again, I know a lot of people in this class probably are already teachers, especially if you're in the CNI program. So I thought maybe there might be some cool stuff to pull out of that, hopefully. So we'll talk more about that. But those are the 2 textbooks. Of course, they're available at the bookstore. You can also get them on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's all good if that's where you would go. And actually, I think these 2 are not too bad on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. I know this one has some used copies that are very, very cheap. So just to give you the heads up, Rave system, all that, we're not meeting live, so I'm not too worried about that. Due dates, we'll talk, but the due dates are all listed here and on the syllabus. If you're having an issue or an emergency with anything, just let me know. I try to be as flexible as possible. I know everyone's work schedule is sometimes prevents getting things in right when you want to do it. Also, main thing is I just need everything by the end. But with that being said, also like it on the due date. There was one other thing I was going to mention about this as we were kind of cruising through. Oh, again, I'll talk about this when I show the assignments. I don't usually do this, but I feel like it might be beneficial to do it for a 7-week course. I'll have all the assignments open so you can work ahead if it's beneficial to you. So what I mean is I say I default to social studies, but I'm going to have to do it. I know a lot of times in the early winter, early spring, there's a lot of social studies fairs and things like that. And if you're doing science fairs, maybe there's a week where you know you're going to be a little bit crazy and it would be beneficial if you could get some stuff done ahead of time. That's fine. This stuff is going to be all open. The descriptions are there. And of course, you can always contact me if you have questions. I can't promise that I'll grade it. I usually grade the week that it's due just because I get calibrated and like to grade everyone's stuff at the same time. But you can definitely work a little bit ahead. I have no problems with that for this class. Standards. Here's our assignments. I'll go through these, and each week I'll try to make sure as something's due to expand a little bit more. But our discussion board is our discussion board. I'll show you where that is here in a few minutes. But there'll be 4 issues. They'll be related to the Darling Hammond book, the Flat World book. I do like discussions to be around 200 words. If you come in at 197 and it's a really good post, I'm not going to penalize you. And the only reason I say that is I have read posts that are 500 words and I'm not even for sure what I'm reading. And I don't mean that as any disrespect or saying that anyone's going to do it. So, I am more of a quality over quantity type person, but most people like to have something in the ballpark of what I'm looking for in terms of word count. Usually I'd say at least 150, 175 in undergraduate. So in graduate, I kind of think 200 is a good barometer. You can go over that though, no problems. The Zen project resource assignment is pretty straightforward. I'll talk about that more next week when I do the video. But if you want to go ahead and get a head start, I'll go ahead and tell you what that is. Howard Zinn was a guy who he was definitely a social studies. He's a social studies, equal rights, uh, multicultural guru. Actually, I'll tell you, and I'm babbling here a little bit. If you've ever seen the movie Good Will Hunting, Good Will Hunting actually references a book that he talks about the people's history of the United States. That's Zen. He kind of tries to look at ways, especially social studies content and English content and things like that, from the point of view of the people, as opposed to like hero history, like focusing on one person and kind of everything trickling down. I actually thought I had pulled that up, but I didn't, but that's okay. Let me look up the Zen project. If you go to this site, you can tell other people are on my computer this morning. Zen project. Whoops. You can tell I haven't been typing either. All right. I was on ESPN this morning. Checking fantasy football. This is the Howard Zinn page. And again, it just talks about teaching people's history. And the only reason I wanted to kind of get into this, and again, I'll talk more about it next week. You can look at different themes and time periods and kind of look at topics from different people's point of view. For example, maybe you're looking for something from women's history or African American history, Asian American history, et cetera, et cetera. You can look at that. And as you can see, there's different things, labor history, LGBTQ history. It's all here. And what I want you to do, and I don't think it's too much of I don't think it's going to sound worse than it is. Oh, language arts. That's what I was saying. There's a lot of English stuff in here, but let me just pull one up just to show you. If you go, you can look at things from, disability. Let's do that one. And let's just say all history, and we'll pull it up slowly. And then there's lesson plans and readings in here that could hopefully help you a little bit in your classroom. What I want you to do, as I've been sitting here babbling, is there's a template that you will be able to download. You just need to type in the theme, the resource, and the diversity connection. For example, if I did disability, you might say the theme is disability or a history of disability. You're going to take one of these resources or both, and just a sentence or two about how you can like incorporate it, or this could be helpful when I'm teaching this, boom, or this is helpful in teaching maybe again social studies. But if I was doing something on FDR and there was something on disability, I might say might be useful in talking about how someone who was disabled led the nation and making the connections to students that we're all equal and things like that. So nothing fancy, just kind of really want you to find a list of 20 different diversity-based tools or resources on this page. And how you approach it is kind of up to you, or what you want to look for. And it's on here. That's one of the early ones. That's why I have it on there. 20, and you can bullet those points. You don't have to write big things. That's not due the first week or anything. We'll go over due dates here in a minute. The action plan, that is the big assignment for this class. That is something that, do I have it pulled up? Yep. It is also up. And again, I'll go over these a little more detail as we progress in the class. But this action plan is basically centered around these 5 goals. And you are going to write a 3 to 5 page paper, Times New Roman, 3 to 5 pages. Don't write 3 to 5 pages for each goal, 3 to 5 pages total in APA format about these goals and how you think your school, or how you think they could be addressed in a school. And as you can see, they're right there. And again, I'll talk a little more about that in the coming weeks. But again, this is up. There is the rubric. and it is there, and it is under assignment, and I'll show you where all that is here in a minute. Um, the other thing that we're going to do are these last two. Hopefully these aren't too complicated. I don't think they will. I was going to have you do papers, and I thought this might be a little more fun to do. I'm going to jump down to the multicultural one first. The multicultural one assignment is basically this. Again, it's kind of a continuation of Zen, but again, it's me trying to get away from the social studies aspect, so to speak. I want you to kind of create I want you to create an e-portfolio with resources related to multicultural education. You can pick a topic. That's kind of how I'm going to, when I get into more details in describing this. So maybe you want to do something on Asian American history, or you want to do something on African American history, or you want to be a little more specific. You might want to do something on the 1619 project, or maybe a specific law that was passed that you feel like contradicts things. Wakelet, and I'll give the instructional template and I'll post some YouTube videos on it. It's just an e-portfolio. You basically can use a Google account. I always assume most people have a Google account, and you open it up and you just find resources and you just post it in there. And you just need to give me like a 1-sentence description of each of the resources. The last thing is going to be basically, I guess, our final. It's going to be a Padlet, and it's on related to the Finnish book that we're going to be reading, or the Finnish education system book. I have the 10 notions. I'm actually trimmed that down to 5 as I've been editing the assignment. I probably will update this on the syllabus before we post the beginning of the semester. But basically, you're going to pick a country other than Finland. I don't care what country. And you're going to have 5 things that you're going to kind of use, and you're going to compare and contrast it with the Finnish system and the United States system. And you're going to post it on a Padlet. I don't know if anyone's familiar with either one of those. So let me just pull them up. Move my face here real quick, just so you know. And there's Pat or Wakelet. And I think I have my Google tied. I might have this one connected to my Shepherd one. Let's see. Yeah, hold on. Sorry. Like I said, I knew there'd be moments. I said use Google, which I would recommend using Google. I think I did this before I was somewhere else and just used my Shepherd. Let's see. This actually worries me because I don't know if I have the right password for this. Ah, there it is. And you see, I actually use Wakelet a lot, and that's another thing. I thought it might be a nice resource if you're something in here. If you've had me for ed tech, you probably have already used this once. As you can see, there's different things. They'll load up here in a minute, but you're basically just going to create a collection. And you just, as you find your resources on your topic, you're just going to paste them here, and then you'll just give a little summary. That's it. So that's Wakelet. Again, as the weeks go on and as the assignments due closer, I'll make sure to do a little more detailed. But if you want to work ahead, go for it. Padlet is kind of more of the same. I was looking at gossip stuff on my computer. Actually, I see it right there with the post. Anyway, hey, good gossip. All right. Basically, once you log in, I'm already logged in on my Google account. You're going to make a Padlet, and you can pick a wall. I don't care which one you really do, but I would recommend just doing wall. And as you do it, you just post things up here, and you can name it. Let's see if I have an example. Would be probably a little better, so you get an idea what it looks like. Yeah, you'll label these sections and you'll put things underneath of it. So, like for example, I'll have a little more detailed. It's one of my things. I'm actually filming this on the 28th, as you can see down there. Before the semester starts, I'll make sure that I have this built up a little bit to show you an example. But like, for example, I might have, it's going to be like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. It's like, I think it's teacher equality and education. And as you put those on there, you might put Finland here, your country here, US, maybe not in that order. That's fine. And you just do it for each one, and you kind of break down a comparison. Like the teacher one, You might look at things like how are teachers trained in Finland versus the country that you pick versus the United States. There's things about whether, the equality, the amount of money that's spent per capita. Is it, are the things that work in Finland, will they work in your country? I'll have all these posted up here, but this is the Padlet if you want to do it. And again, just the setup will be, they're on the assignment and you could just label them at the top and put each country down here on the bottom. So that is the Padlet. Let me get that out of here. I know I'm throwing a lot out. So again, feel free to contact anytime. Last but not least, I think that's it. Oh, discussion board. And as we go, here's our, our outline for everything. I mentioned, if you want to work ahead, the content weeks might not be open. Don't worry. I keep putting my hand up. Don't worry. If you go here, of course, content shows you that stuff. If you click assignments, everything should be up. And as you can see here, they are. Do not worry about these ed puzzles. I left them there just as something to remember to talk about. That was something I did the last class, but I'm going to incorporate them a little bit with the discussion boards and some of the world is flat type of issues. But some of the things we might talk about are, 1619 project. I did a little thing on the Little Rock 9 last time. I wouldn't mind mentioning that, I might get into that a little bit again on one of our videos. This video might also be a little longer than some of them. I do try to keep them around a 15-minute threshold if I can. I do get a little long-winded. Appalachia, by the way, that's another area that I think sometimes we forget with that diversity. Socioeconomic issues are totally fine to do in this class for some of your topics. And then there's the Padlet. So everything can be submitted here, but I'm going to ask one favor, and it's related to the action plan. If you go back to content, there is something here. It says key assessment. The action plan is our key assessment for this class. I'm going to ask everyone the first week, and I'll probably remind you each week on the videos. If you could just click this the first week, it registers you into the key assessment. It's quirky. It's a new thing that we're doing. But when you click on that, it actually links you to this iRubric, and your name will actually show up on the side. So, but you don't have to worry about that right now. And that, yeah, I was going to say, let me close that out. Just in case you see that and you're wondering. But that's where all the assignments are. They will also be linked the week they're due within the course content. Don't worry about quizzes. We have no quizzes. Discussion boards. Discussion boards will also be linked with each week, but if you want to work ahead a little bit, I will have them all posted before this class starts. I have certain discussion one up. I'm altering these a little bit, but I have discussion one up, so I'm just going to focus right there. I talk about Darling Hammond. She begins her work talking about the concept of a flat world. I don't know if anyone's actually knows what that is. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, and I'm going to link an article besides how she defines it. This talks a little bit about Thomas Friedman. She does also, but the concept of a flat world basically kind of gets into the idea that the world's shrinking. I don't know how else to say it. Technology's made things a lot different in how we approach things and how we can teach, probably more so in the last 2 years than actually when this term kind of developed. This article that I'm going to have in the discussion post talks about Thomas Friedman's concept of a flat world. As if you look, it is an older article. It's from 2006, but I think it does a nice job defining it. And it's not a long article. As you can see, it's probably about a 2-minute read. It just talks about it, but you'll be able to see that it's a little old. It talks about how Netscape is helping to shrink the world. I don't even know, is Netscape even around anymore? But it does kind of talk about, like, do we need to, that's what the whole book that Darling Hammond's getting into. With the flat world, do we need to, well, not only do, it's not an if, but how do we alter education to make it more equitable for students across the country, and I guess even across the world, if you want to get that to that point. There's some things with a flat world that you have to think about. Technology, I'm sure some of you who, again, if you're already in the classroom, you probably experienced this. Not all students have the same access to technology that we want our schools to advance, and everyone wants to say we need to use this technology. it doesn't work that way. For example, I know most schools are one-to-one now. Most schools, I think students can take their some schools they can take their equipment home, some schools they can't. I'm not up to date on all of that, but I know it does vary from school to school. But I remember being in one county where they were like, it's great that they've given all these students iPads and they can take them home, but half of her students didn't have the internet. That's an issue. That's, we're getting into equality and maybe some socioeconomic type issues. So that's some of the things to think about with The World is Flat. I'll talk a little more about chapters 1 and 2 as after we do the discussion. I think everyone kind of checking everything out is the most important thing this week. But you do have a discussion that'll be due this first week, and it is about related to The World is Flat. If you look at this, it says, after reading chapters 1 and 2, what do you feel is the biggest challenge facing the field of education? I butchered that. I'm going to start that all again. After reading chapters 1 and 2, what do you feel is the biggest challenge facing the field of education in the coming decades? I'm going to try that one more time. Discussion 1. After reading chapters 1 and 2, what do you feel is the biggest challenge facing the field of education in the coming decades? That was much better. That's your first discussion topic. I'll have the link. Actually, let me just go ahead and do it so I don't forget to do it. If you're interested, this is not required reading, but I think it might help in case Darling Hammond isn't your cup of tea and you think maybe she's a little too wordy or anything like that. I think she's pretty readable personally, but to each their own. So if you're looking for a definition for everything, and what I'd just like you to do is, read this first 2 chapters and kind of say what you think the biggest issue is in this ever-changing world. And again, I probably might tweak this a little bit. Think about it through the lens of, diversity, multicultural. Think about it through the lenses of your students. And I think that's probably a better way to do it. There's a lot of issues, obviously. I know there's administrative issues, there's curriculum issues, there's things like that. And that all does connect. But just trying to think about it through the lens of your students and trying to make things more equitable for your students. What are those biggest challenges? The last thing that you need to do on the discussion board, it is not on there as an assignment, but I'll move this up to the top because I think it's maybe the most important thing this week. Can you just please give an introduction of who you are? Name, where you're from, where do you teach, or what do you want to teach? What's your field? Again, social studies, science, elementary, Spanish, or foreign language. And what's your hobbies? What are the things you like to do? So like for me, Jason Allen, where are you from? I'm actually from West Virginia, did live in Delaware and Maryland for a little bit growing up. What did you teach, or where do you teach? I actually taught at schools in Berkeley County, Morgan County. I've actually taught over in Allegheny County, Garrett County. I've done some stuff over there. My field is social studies. That's kind of what I went into right off the bat. It's kind of what I've done since then. It's what I love. Been here at Shepherd now. I guess I should say I teach education classes also. Been at Shepherd this is my 4th year as a full-time instructor. I actually adjunct for a few years before that. Hobbies, golf, running my son around. I like to travel, love to travel if I can afford it or or find the time. Those are usually the 2 tough things. Did get to go on a nice trip this year to Europe. So, but now I'm broke and probably won't go for a couple more years. So that would be kind of that. And you don't have to make any of that complicated. It's just to kind of get a feel, because when we're in asynchronous class, it's nice to at least know a little bit about everyone. That will be that. So you need to do discussion 1 and the introduction. And with that being said, I know I threw a lot out at you, and for that I apologize. And everyone is welcome to contact me anytime with any questions. But the main thing you can take out of this whole thing that I've just done, 1, next week for next week's class, and actually I'll pull up the dates one more time. By next Sunday at 11:59 is usually when I like things due. So if today, our first day is, let's just pull it up. If we're starting on the 9th, the Monday the 9th, the 15th is when everything is due. And let me check my calendar on that, because I go through all these things and then I catch mistakes. Yep, there we go. 15th at 11:59. If you need an extra day or so, just fire me an email. Sometimes I might even bump it to Monday just because I know things are different, get complicated, and some people have issues logging in. But for next week, this right here, I'll have, when you click on that, there'll be links to discussion one. I'll put it on there. I haven't fixed the dates on it, but I think you'll get an idea. But the action plan overview is there just in case you want to see it. But discussion one will be under here. And that's the big thing. This video will be under there. So you can relive the magic of this video if you want to. Also, I'll post the syllabus on the announcement page, but that's the big thing. And do the intro and just kind of mess around the sites. That's number one, discussion one in the intro. Number two, just remember you are welcome to work ahead. You don't have to work ahead, but because we're a 7-week class, you're welcome to do it. Just please recognize that I probably won't grade it till the week that it's due, unless things are really going great for me that week. I do try to grade the week after everything's due, though, one, because we don't have a lot of time, and two, I just think it's, as a teacher, I do try to get things back as fast as I can. So with all that being said, I hope I didn't mumble too much. Hope I didn't speak too fast, and I hope I didn't throw too much at you. But again, feel free to contact me anytime if you have any questions. And with that being said, I am going to stop my share and tell everyone, think we'll have a great class. I think this is a very interesting class. I think there's some good topics that we can look at. And I might give out some shout outs of discussion boards and things like that. And in case anyone's wondering, no, I'm not requiring you to respond to anyone on the discussion board. It's just about posting. With that being said, I hope we have a great week, great class, and welcome back. And most of the time I'll be in my office. You won't get to see the golf stuff and all. So, but I'll catch you in the coming weeks. Thanks. Bye.